Isn't it a beautiful evening out here at Lake Minnetonka? We're standing here on the shore just watching this beautiful, beautiful sunset. What's that you say? Something's happening? Something's appearing on the water? It looks like a ghost? It looks like somebody walking toward us on the water? Why, that's kind of frightening, isn't it? Then the voice speaks and it says, "Do not be afraid. It is I, Jesus." The disciples had that experience, didn't they? You remember the Bible story, only they weren't standing on a shore on a beautiful evening on the Sea of Galilee and watching a sunset. They were out in the middle of a storm, and it was frightening. Well, we're going to look at that story today, so let's get started. Okay, so let's take a look at Matthew's account found in Matthew chapter 14, beginning at verse 22. Jesus had just fed the 5,000 plus people, and it says that immediately he made the disciples get into the boat and go before him to the other side. This is the other side of the Sea of Galilee, while he dismissed the crowds. And after he had dismissed all of the crowds, Jesus went up on the mountain by himself to be alone to pray. Well, when evening came, he was there alone, but the boat by this time was a long way away from the land, and it was being beaten by the waves. It says, "For the waves were against them." And in the fourth watch, which would have been between 3 a.m. and 6 a.m. of the night, Jesus came to them walking on the water. But when the disciples saw him walking on the sea, they were terrified, and they said, "It's a ghost!" And they cried out in fear. But immediately Jesus spoke to them, saying, "Take heart, it is I. Do not be afraid." Well, Peter answered him, "Lord, if it's you, command me to come to you on the water." And he said, "Come." So Peter got out of the boat, and he walked on the water, and he came to Jesus. But when he saw the wind, he was afraid, and beginning to sink, he cried out, "Lord, save me!" Well, Jesus immediately reached out his hand and took hold of him. He said to him, "O you of little faith, why did you doubt?" And when they got into the boat, the wind ceased, and those in the boat worshipped him, saying, "Truly, you are the Son of God." What an awesome experience those disciples had. Well, Peter was not content with just ordinary living. He wanted to really experience something great with Jesus. And so he asked Jesus if he could get out of the boat and come to him and walk on the water. And of course, Jesus said, "Yes, come on, Peter." Peter wanted to do things in his life that he'd never dreamed possible otherwise. And while all of the rest of them sat there just looking, Peter slipped over the side of that boat and he put his foot down, and lo and behold, it held him. And so he got out and he was looking at Jesus, and he was walking across the water, and he was just having a great time heading toward Jesus. As long as he focused on Jesus, everything went well. But then he felt perhaps a gust of wind or something, and it made him look away. And he began to see all the waves and feel that wind beating against him. And he began to sink. He was in trouble, and he knew it. He cried out to the Lord, "Lord, save me." You ever do that? And Jesus, it says immediately, he was right there. He reached down and he pulled Peter up out of the water. And he said to him, "Why do you have such little faith?" Well, it takes a lot of faith to walk on the water, doesn't it? But I don't think we should be too hard on Peter. Do you? I mean, Peter was the one who got out of the boat. And I kind of wonder in my life sometimes if there's sometimes I need to get out of the boat, get out of my comfort zone and do something that I'm not used to doing. How about you? Do you ever feel like you want to do something, but it just goes against maybe your level of comfort? Jesus challenges us when working for Him and serving Him to get out of our comfort zone, because that's where He is able to work the miracles in our life. He can work miracles in our life if we will trust Him, if we will get out of the boat and keep our focus on Him. That's the important thing, isn't it? You see, Peter was just fine. And you will be just fine. I will be just fine if we keep our focus on Jesus. It's when we begin to look at all the circumstances and those storms of life that come, they're inevitable to come. They're going to come. That we begin to sink. But Jesus has promised us He would never leave us. He would never forsake us. You see, Peter knew where to turn. That was a good thing about Peter, right? He knew where to turn. He didn't just start trying to swim back to the boat. He said, Lord, save me. And immediately Jesus was there. And He'll do that for you and for me too if we call out to Him. And those times when we get our eyes off of Him, we need to get them right back on Him again. He's right there to help us immediately. He's our help and our strength for today. Amen.